Alright guys, we've got the UINTAH Basin hunt that we've got pretty much put together for you. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 kilograms of silver, bunch of silver rounds, some really cool old coins, autographed copy about a book about some local history by our friend John Barton. This really awesome old Morgan dollar belt buckle, some more silver, Teddy Roosevelt coin, compass, brooch. Brooch, is that how you say it?
Sure.
Sure. We got a really old $1 bill. I forgot the date, but I'll look. And then we have some agatized gemstone dinosaur bone thing that is awesome. That's real dinosaur bone that has been turned into a gemstone, and it's really awesome. We've got a bone chest full of barber dimes. We've got this other really cool chest full of more silver rounds and a lot of buffalo nickels, sheriff badge, this awesome chest, and a compass. Oh, and I missed the knife and there's just too much stuff. We've got so much stuff going into this chest. And did I mention 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 kilograms of silver? The chest weighs in at like 20 pounds.
The UINTAH Basin was a very rough place 140 years ago. In fact, the Mormon pioneers and the scouts that came out to the vernal area reported back that it was nothing more than a place that holds the earth together. It was a very inhabitable place. In fact, it wasn't even until 1876 that the first women made it into this area. There were some cattlemen and some trappers that lived in the area in the early 1870s and maybe a little bit earlier than that. And the first women wasn't here until 1876, which is kind of crazy. But we're going to go just a little bit further. In fact, we're going to talk about an Erastus Christensen. Was born in Ephraim, Utah, around that time. And like most boys back then, he had a pretty normal life. Grew up on the farm with his father, helping out. And at the age of 14, he got in a fight with a local boy there, and over a love interest, actually. So when he got in this fight, he ended up hitting the story goes that he hit this kid on the head with a rock, knocked him out. He thought he killed him, and he fled. So he made his way out here to the UINTAH Basin and changed his name to Matt Warner. A lot of you here have heard, we've got a lake out here called Matt Warner. A lot of you have heard quite a bit about Matt. And throughout this hunt, we're going to teach you even more about him. It wasn't long, though, after that he actually did take his first life. He was working for a rancher up on Diamond Mountain, and there was a Mexican horse thief that came through, and Matt ended up shooting him. And that kind of started his life into the outlaw world, and quite an interesting one at that. But we're going to actually let our friend John Barton here tell you a fun story about Matt Warner. A lot of these outlaws that we had out through here were pretty witty and pretty clever. Hope you enjoy this story.
Hi, I'm John Barton. I'm a historian for Utah State University here at the UINTAH Basin Regional Campus. I've been asked to talk just a quick story about Matt Warner. I won't 100% guarantee this is true, but I've heard it repeated and read it in books. Matt and Robert Leroy Parker, who was starting to be called Butch Cassidy, robbed the bank up in Telluride, Colorado. As they headed out on the run, a posse, of course, organizes and takes off after them. When they get to the Green River, by Green River, Utah, they know the ferryman there, and they talk him into getting them across, and then being real slow to get back across for the posse. Well, then they head over to the San Rafael Swell over at Robbers Roost region, and then the posse out of Hanksville starts after them with the Sheriff Farr. As they go deeper and deeper into the labyrinth of canyons and impossible country down there, they know where a little spring is up a canyon. So they go up there and water their horses and get a drink, fill their canteens, come back out to the mouth of the canyon. And there they brush out their tracks and ride up over the ridge, tie their horses, and sneak back afoot to see if Sheriff Farr and his two deputies know about this canyon or not. Well, they don't. Then they get worrying that maybe he and his deputies might die out there if they don't know where the water is, so they sneak down the trail and they get the drop on the sheriff, tell him that, "Hey, Sheriff, up this little canyon here's a spring and it's the only water within miles. If you don't water your horse, you probably won't make it." So he thanks them, and they said, "Well, since we saved your life, you're going to quit chasing us, aren't you?" He said, "No." So that made him mad. They tell Sheriff Farr to get off his horse. And he gets off and said, "Take your saddle off." So he really starts grumbling, but he takes the saddle off his horse. And then they kind of whisper together and giggle and say, "Well, take your boots off." He takes his boots off, and he's really a cussing now. And then they really laugh and say, "Take your pants off." So he takes his pants off, and then they take off with his saddle and boots and pants. And he goes up, and they get their horses watered, get a drink, but he has to ride all the way back into Hanksville bareback, wearing his long-handled underwear. So that's one of my favorite Matt Warner stories.
Thank you, Mr. Barton, for that fun story. What a character Matt Warner was, and these outlaws were pretty clever and witty, and I think they kind of had to be back then to do what they did. We're going to get more into Matt Warner as this hunt goes on, so make sure you guys check into him and read a little bit more about him. We've got some more fun history about him as this goes on. But let's get to the riddle right now. I'm going to read it for you out of my notebook here just to make sure I get it 100% right for you, because it's important. And good luck. Against the ray and through the peak, not a distance but a direction you seek, with the morass in full view and the night light passing below you, the road to nowhere is the one you take. Any other would be a grave mistake. Good luck.